I normally am a person that's filled with wisdom, and lately I just haven't felt so wisdomy.
When you are growing your wisdom, it is sometimes dark, uncomfortable, painful. You make decisions that on paper maybe don't make sense to other people.
Since, my first month and a half wasn't this like rainbows and butterflies, it really was more of a challenge. I really went dark.
What happens when the life you've built, the one that looks perfect from the outside, no longer fits who you're becoming on the inside? Welcome to Wisdom Stripes. I'm your host, Meg Tuohey, and today we're exploring the space between endings and beginnings, that raw in-between phase where identity falls apart so something truer can take shape. Our guest, Paula Sanders, knows that space well. A former professional dancer turned community builder, writer, and podcast host, Paula has spent her life learning how to reinvent herself publicly and courageously. From growing up as a competitive dancer to walking away from a high-profile role to take a leap into the unknown, Paula's story is a testament to trusting your intuition even when the next chapter isn't fully written. She's the host of the World's Your Oyster podcast and the writer behind Love You, Love Me on Substack, spaces where she invites people into honest, unfiltered conversations about confidence, identity loss, emotional growth, and the beautiful messiness of being human. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godmothers, turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Paula, we always begin with the same question. What wisdom would you like to have a listener walk away with today?
Well, I'm emotional. Wow, I actually have never put my own thoughts into words like that, and to hear you kind of explain what I'm going through at this current moment it's kind of taken me back. And I think, for me, what I would love to really leave people with today is for them to remember to try to find the beautiful moments in your ugly ones. And as I started this conversation with saying, like, it's a really interesting time for me to be having a conversation about wisdom, because I'm going through an incredible season of change, and I've been struggling more than I've struggled in a really, really, really long time. And I normally am a person that's filled with wisdom, and lately I just haven't felt so wisdomy because I've been questioning literally everything. But I think that that's the whole point. And I've been having these big feelings, and I've been expressing them to my family and to my friends and to people, strangers on the internet through Substack and through Instagram or whatever it is. And that has been such a beautiful part of this process for me. And I've also seen some of the most transformational growth in myself. Doesn't mean that I'm, reaching all the accolades, reaching all the accolades that I thought I would be at this moment after, leaving this big thing that I was a part of. But it's still so beautiful. This transformation and this time and this, like, it's almost radical honesty that I've been experiencing with myself and with others, and that's really beautiful. So that, I think, for me is like, that's wisdom right there.
It is. And there's lots of pieces of wisdom right there.
Yeah.
One of the pieces is it's often darkest before dawn. And when you're walking through a season of growth, you don't know how it's going to unfold and whether the decisions you're making are the ones that are actually going to work, or if you're going to have to pivot and try again till you figure it out. That's actually how we earn our stripes. And that's the whole point of wisdom stripes. And stripes mean like the insignia that you get in the military when you go up a rank, or gray hairs.
Mm-hmm. Stretch marks.
Well, yeah, let's add them. Stretch marks. I've never thought of that, but yes, please.
Yeah.
I think the whole point is when you are growing your wisdom, it is sometimes dark, uncomfortable, painful. You make decisions that on paper maybe don't make sense to other people, but something in you is guiding you to a different type of life. And when we live in that authenticity, we get access to contentment, we get access to satisfaction, creation, and sometimes a group of people that are like-minded or understand us in a different way. Whole worlds shift to match us. And I love that. I love it. And one of my life's work ideas is about helping women in particular have an inside experience that reflects them on the outside and vice versa. So to read that in what you're working through felt very congruent to me.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, and what I've also learned through kind of sharing this journey is that I'm definitely not alone. And I had written a piece a few weeks ago about, yeah, what happens when that thing that everybody knows you for no longer speaks to you, and then what happens when you leave that. And the truth is that you lose a huge piece of your identity, and it's really scary. And even though that this is something that I chose, I chose to leave this job that was bigger than me. And what happened after was something that I never would have imagined in a million years, a real grieving process. And it doesn't matter if that thing no longer speaks to you, you still go through the 5 stages of grief. And I wasn't prepared for that. I'm still in them, I think, because it takes a really long time to readjust to something new. And sometimes things don't go as you thought that they would. And maybe the new opportunity isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, or it's just going slower than you would have ever imagined. I'm so used to building in public and being out there and being in everybody's face. And, right now I'm building something very much so in private, and I'm just not used to it. But I have to tell you, it's really teaching me a course in patience and just really surrendering into the belief of something. And that's not something that I'm typically familiar with. And it's expanding me. It really is. And I will say, even in terms of like patience in the workplace, has really transformed into patience in my regular life. I had an experience a few weekends ago. Now, I am Puerto Rican and Sicilian. Okay. I run hot. I'm the eldest daughter of two type A alphas. Okay. So I am spicy. I am full of sazon. The most minor inconvenience is gonna get me going to the moon, okay? That's just the way that I am. It's just the way that I am. And I had an experience over the weekend. It was my birthday, actually, October 1st, so this was, I guess, not weekend, the weekend before, and we were going upstate, my husband and I. My husband is not what you wanna call fast, he's a very thorough guy, so he takes his time, very calm, very even-keeled man. And he was doing his thing that morning. We wanted to get on the road by 11. Car pickup was 11 a.m. It's 1 p.m. We're still home because he's running around. Granted, he was like preparing for my birthday weekend because he's cooks. So he was getting all the ingredients, things that should have been done the day before, if I'm being honest with you, but whatever. I was fine. You know what? It's okay. It's going to be fine. It's all good. It's just nearing rush hour on Friday, but it's okay. It's going to be fine. We get to go to pick up the car. There's a line at Budget Rental Car in Brooklyn. Takes an hour, right? Normally, I would be busting through the roof, blaming this on my husband. How dare you? How could you do this? Can you believe this is happening? F Budget Rental Car, F you, F this whole thing, the whole thing. I was calm, cool, and collected as a cucumber. We wait an hour. We get to the counter. I'm the driver in our relationship. My husband doesn't have his driver's license. He's a New Yorker. So I hand my driver's license and I hand them my husband's credit card. The woman looks at me. Yeah, you need to have where's your credit card? The credit card and the driver's license need to match. I don't carry credit cards. I haven't carried credit cards since Apple Pay came out. I didn't even carry credit cards before Apple Pay came out. It's just I was kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. So look at my husband who booked this rental car. And I was like, now I could have a freak out because you booked it. You should have read the fine print. And instead I look at him. Now it's 3:30 on Friday. We have to go 2.5 hours out of New York City. And I just say, all right, listen, I'm going to run home. I'm going to see if I even have a credit card with my name on it. I'm going to come back and we're going to go. And I go. And when I tell you, like, even I was shocked at myself. My heart rate wasn't increased. Normally, my skin would be hot to the touch. Normally, I would be cursing him out, even still on the text message, on the Ubers, on the way there and back. Whatever. I get the card. I get back. We get in the car. It's 4:00. We get in the car. My husband was just like, I have to say, Paula, I've never seen you handle a tough situation like this before. Ever. I have never seen you handle a situation like this. Normally, you would be freaking out. That woman at Budget Rent-A-Car would have quit because you would have reamed her out just for doing her job, following the corporate policies, because it minorly inconvenienced you. And that's growth. He's like, so I know that you're going through like this whole thing, but I just had to applaud you for keeping your calm in a situation like this. Like I could tell as a human, you're growing. And I was like, you know what? Hell yeah.
You know, it's often those moments where we see it.
Yeah.
And it's often our loved ones who
Yeah.
provide that mirror. So it makes sense to me that it happened outside of all the things,
Yeah.
just in front of one person who arguably means the most to you.
For sure.
And that's how you notice the growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I needed it in that moment. I definitely did because like I said, this journey has been so challenging for me. And I needed to kind of see this silver lining through because a lot of the times when you're going through the shit, all you can see is the shit.
Yeah.
And it's been a complex thing to navigate through. So I'm just waiting for the next moment to make sure that it wasn't a fluke. But I think we're making some real growth.
I think you're making some real growth.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that.
Drop the we.
This is
Do you want to try that again?
Yes, I am making some real growth.
Oh, I witness and co-sign that for you. Do. All right. I love this. Now, for those of us who, and this is on behalf of my listeners,
Yeah.
our listeners, so we need to go from I to we, we'll go back. For those of us who don't know what you left, would you tell us about what you left and why?
Yeah.
And what you're building instead?
Yeah, for sure. So, it's interesting. Even on my own podcast, I actually never shared what my career was because I was actually building my podcast behind the scenes. And just as I left my job, actually, they had found out about it. And they actually really liked it. They, not that they were willing to like sponsor it or anything like that, but they were like, wow, this is actually quite beautiful what you're building. So that was also a lesson in like, if you're going to take a chance on yourself and you haven't necessarily told your employer, like maybe you just should, because I probably could have grown that podcast a lot bigger than I did because I was so concerned about somebody seeing it, even though I knew that they would be proud of it. And for me, it was never about talking about my job. My podcast was all about letting people, women in particular, remember that the world is truly your oyster and that you could have whatever you want at any time that you want. And I truly believe that if I didn't start that show and have the conversations with the women that I had on my show, that I never would have had the guts to do what I did. So if you're a World Your Oyster listener, you're finally going to find out, what it is that I did for a living. But basically, I was the global head of membership for Casa Cipriani, which if you live in New York City, you know very well what this establishment is. But if you don't, think about in whatever city it is that you live in, there's this place that everybody wants to be a part of. And you're the one that seemingly holds the key. Now, I'm not going to give myself that much power. There were many other people that were, involved in this. But on the outside, most people thought that I was the main decision maker in anyone who got in and out of this club. And it was a beautiful experience. I was one of the first people that they hired for the project. I was there long before 2019. And this project and this club have really, truly become iconic and so much bigger than, any of us, I think, ever could have anticipated. And it was a beautiful journey from really start to finish. And for me, it really was, at the end of the day, it was a few things, right? When you have conversations with people and you're a part of something like this, number one, like people always recognize you for being that thing. And I was always Paula from Casa Cipriani. And for the longest time, that was something that made me so happy and so proud. And it still does to this day. But at the same time, I was like, I never thought that I was like going to put my head down on the pillow every night and be okay with like just being Paula from Casa Cipriani that is tied to this beautifully incredible thing, but it's not necessarily something that she's passionate about, right? Like I'm a former professional dancer, as you said, and I've always come from a passion career and I love and so many different things, but hospitality isn't necessarily one of them, right? It was just something that I kind of fell into because I have always been a community builder. From the moment that I stopped professionally dancing, I've always been in membership, which is this weird, crazy thing. And that's why I always say, like, what is for you will not pass you, right? So there was that. And then there was this second piece of the puzzle for me where I was getting a lot of recognition from people. oh my gosh, what you built at Casa Cipriani was so amazing and yada, yada, yada. And I would always accept those compliments. But when I got home and put my head down on the pillow again, I like to sleep. Are we seeing a common trend there? You know, I thought to myself, okay, it's nice to get these compliments, but I know that even if I wasn't a part of this thing, it was going to be successful without me. And that's a wonderful thing, and I'm learning now, like, that I'm part of something that isn't as big and well-known and renowned. It's a challenge, but I knew that when and if I was to ever take a leap, that what I did next was going to be successful off of the strength of my own back. Because it doesn't make sense to leave something that's, quite frankly, pretty easy. I mean, you're working for one of the most prolific, well-known companies that everybody wants to be a part of. Why leave that unless you know that the next thing that you're going to do, whether it succeeds or fails, is purely because of you? And I started feeling those things probably 2 years ago. And that's when I started my podcast, because I needed to find some identity outside of that place. Because every conversation I was having with someone, it was when their next trip to Casa Cipriani was going to be, or when their friend's going to get off the wait list, or how can I get on the wait list? And what can I do, give, how much, what's it going to take, Paula, for me to be a part of this thing? And I thought that was so fun for the first couple of years, honestly. Like, I loved it. And then it just started to become a little bit old to me. Like, how come every time somebody sees me, they have to tell me their next dinner reservation? You wouldn't do that to, someone that has a clothing brand. Oh, next time I'm going to Stacks, I'm going to, buy your blazer, whatever. I'm just using like a weird example, but like, not that, not that like people like that have, but it's just like, became a weird thing to me. So I started the podcast, and that was a beautiful thing. And I thought that that was really going to be the thing that allowed me to stay. Be the thing that allowed me to stay happy at Casa Cipriani, because it's a place that you should be happy at. And I was happy at, but I knew that there was something else out there for me. So did the podcast, did the whole thing. And that's the whole other challenge. And that's a whole other grind. And that's a whole other thing. And that was tiring me out too. And it wasn't quite checking the box for me. So I started to really think, started to really meditate, started to really write down, like, what are the things I love? What are the things that I'm passionate about? What do I want my day-to-day to look like? And what do I want to be talking about all the time? Because I'm a talker. As you can see, I haven't stopped talking since we started, right? I'm a talker. So what is it that I want to be talking about every day? So I started to write. And all of these things started to come out of me. And for me, growing up, although yes, of course I was a dancer and I spent all of this time in the dance school, but I always had another love. And that other love was, at that time when I was a kid, getting dressed up, right? Because I didn't really know what fashion was. And then as I got older, I started to understand what fashion was. I actually went to FIT. I interned at many different fashion companies. I even interned at like Italian Vogue. And, life happens. And after I went to college, I ended up dancing for a few years, and then came back, and like my degree was basically defunct. I had a degree in advertising, marketing, communication. There, like when I graduated, there was no Instagram. And then I danced for a few years. And then when I went back into the world, it was all digital marketing. And like, I didn't even know what a KPI was. Like, it wasn't even something that we learned. Like, so I was basically like, shit, I'm already like 25 or 26 at that point. I'm like, I can't go back to school. So like, what am I going to do? And that's when I walked into an Equinox and asked to sell memberships. And I've been selling memberships ever since. But anyway, all of these feelings. And then at Casa, I had to dress up every day. So I got to really dive deep into the world of fashion. And I was also exposed to so many people in the fashion world. And a lot of them became my dear friends or acquaintances. And I kind of was like tangentially tied to this world. And actually a lot of people, especially those that listen to my podcast, thought I worked in fashion. Just because I was at a lot of fashion events and a lot of my friends worked in fashion, and I always was dressed. And that's what ended up coming out in a lot of my visualizations. Like, I want to be living and walking more in a way that I'm around the thing that I'm passionate about. And that really is fashion and the art of getting dressed, and what getting dressed really does for a person, and how that transforms their identity every single day. I swear, like, again, I'm going to say it one more time, what is for you will not pass you. But I was never a girly that like hopped on her LinkedIn. It wasn't something that I ever really needed to do, right? Like I had hundreds and hundreds of applications coming in at Casa Cipriani. I didn't need to do any outbound, so like why would I be on LinkedIn? And randomly, I opened up my LinkedIn, and there was a treasure trove of opportunities in there, by the way. So check your LinkedIn, guys. Like if you have a good job, check your LinkedIn because you never know what's hiding in there. And I saw this very short message from a random recruiter about a membership based role at a fashion tech company. And I was like, that's interesting. And so I started to take some calls, started to learn more about the opportunity. And it was a long process. Don't get me wrong. It took me 4 months to make this decision to finally make a move. But I ultimately decided to take this role because it really was taking all the things that I had been dreaming about for really my whole life. Obviously, I said I went to FIT, so I always wanted to work in fashion, even as a young adult or a teenager. Um, so I kind of really sold myself on this dream of this really being what I wanted. And I decided to finally make the decision, and that is what I'm doing now. And, knowing very little about the fashion world, very different from the hospitality world, very different from, anything that I was building. And I think for me, I thought that I would come into this role and it would be super fast paced and I would be able to like gel with everybody right away. And it just wasn't the case. Like I normally walk into a room and everybody loves me and, I have an infectious energy, but I was working from home and I didn't know how to like put all this energy into a Zoom, right? And this is also we're a startup where we haven't even really gone to market. So like now it's been like 4 months, so we're going just so much slower than I ever would have anticipated. And as I said, it's like a true lesson in patience and learning to build quietly. And since this beginning stage for me wasn't what I'm typically used to. Also Casa Cipriani was like the second person they hired, so nobody like had to like me. They were forced to like me. Here, I was like employee number 5 or 6, and quite a few years older than everybody as well. So that was an interesting thing as well. I was not used to being. Now I'm the oldest one in the room, which is another interesting thing that we can definitely dive deep on because I just turned 38, and to be the oldest person in the room, like nobody prepares you for that, right? So with all of that being said, since my first month and a half wasn't this like rainbows and butterflies, it really was more of a challenge. I really went dark and really questioned everything and thought, do I have any wisdom? Because I think somebody with wisdom probably would have done a little bit more research and really would have like understood what they were doing before just, ripping themselves from a job that was really freaking great on paper. Because when you leave, all you remember is the good stuff. That's the truth. You don't remember the things that were no longer serving you. And listen, my list was small of what wasn't serving me. My list was very small for someone that's been somewhere for 6 years. My list of things that were no longer serving me was pretty small. Um but yeah, you go to a pretty dark place, and I'm just finally getting out of that place 4 months later. I'm still not there. And but I'm actually like really enjoying the beauty and the breakdown and all of that. And I'm grateful for it. And I would be lying if there were times where I sometimes wake up and say, even though I know this was the right decision for me, for my growth, for what I want for the rest of my life, and for my trajectory. But some days I'm like, man, I would love to just go back to like to what I knew, to where I was like fully embraced for the person that I am. And and I was with a lot of people every single day. Now we're adjusting to working from home. Like now we're actually going to the office a little bit. So yeah, it's just interesting. And I think that a lot of people don't talk about what happens when you leave that job and things don't really go according to plan. And not to say, I mean, I'm thriving. I'm still having a great time. It's not that I don't love what I'm doing. You just, you're always going to miss that other thing that you're doing too. And that piece of you, right? When you are this person that seemingly can get most people globally, because it didn't matter where I went, people always knew what Casa Cipriani was, that you could potentially give them access to something that they want, or they're business partner might want or their family friend might want one day. Everybody, quite frankly, kisses your ass. And all of a sudden, nobody was kissing my ass anymore. And, that was to me fine. I don't care. But like, wow, I didn't realize that also would be, I didn't realize that I liked that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I liked it.
Yeah.
And I did.
And because there's a power with that.
For sure.
And it is something that you cultivated over the duration you were
Yeah.
there. And it's something that goes with the position. So the next person that's in that role that used to be yours now gets that experience.
Yeah.
They inherited that experience.
Yes, but I am so okay with that because the girl that inherited my role, I mentored her for 2.5 years. She's like my left arm. So I could not be like more happy and proud to know that she's thriving with that type of power. And it like that makes my heart truly happy and has actually been one of the things for me that like has made a lot of this okay is knowing that like she has inherited that and I worked so hard with her on that and she deserves it, right? I chose to walk away from it. So it's been interesting.
Yeah. You know what I want to talk about is
Yeah.
endings, because we don't always recognize when an ending comes and we're in the transition from leaving to beginning and then we start something new. I often find that it's in the starting something new that we finally recognize what we just left. That container, the nuance, the system, the people, the experience, the chapter of our life. And I often think we don't really know what we're giving up until it's gone. And perhaps that's reasonable. But also, whenever I left a job when I was in my corporate era, whenever I left a job and went to the next one, it was later before I was like, oh my gosh, I don't work with them anymore. Oh my gosh, it's over. It sounds like that was your experience. Is that right?
I still haven't removed my email. Like I can't find it in me to remove the inbox. Like once a week I get the like you need to refresh your email. Like you need to refresh your password. Yeah, it's just weird. Like and it's so funny because like also and I it's been a great break. Like we're still, the best of best friends, colleagues, like we all still communicate all the time. And it's as I spoke with the girl who was taking my role, her name is McKenna. Hi McKenna. I'm sure you'll watch. We just kept saying all summer, like, I just feel like this is one big joke. And like, we're both going to come back in September. Cause like, it's quiet at Casa Cipriani in the summer. Everybody's on their yachts. So we just kept saying like, this just doesn't feel real. Like in September, we're both for sure going to come back. Right. And, that wasn't the case. Yeah. So I still have yet to remove the email for whatever reason. I just can't bring myself to remove the inbox.
Yeah.
Which is so, I guess, because it's like my last thing. It's my last piece. And like once I remove that inbox, like I did not know that I was going to be going mental like this. I really did not. I did not. I am such a confident and sure person in all of my decisions. And I usually make decisions fast. Like I don't ask for help. I never ask for anybody's opinion. I don't share because I'm so sure of myself. I don't know where I got that from or why I do it. I just like find it a waste of time to like speak to people about like what I'm going through because I know I'm not going to take their advice. I just don't, I don't know. I guess I don't value. I don't know. So what is that? What is that about? That's weird.
I think that's congruence.
That's weird.
I think that's congruence and a sense of an inner knowing that allows you to choose your path.
Yeah. So I'm typically so sure. So I was not expecting to go as cuckoo as I have, with this one, even to the point where it's so embarrassing. 4 months have gone by. Like I still have not deleted my email.
It's not embarrassing. That's nostalgia.
It is. It's nostalgia. It was a beautiful time. And I know that I'm going to build beautiful memories with this new place. And I know that I'm also like, I have more emotional depth than I had 4 months ago. You know what I'm saying? So I'm able to really write better. I'm having better conversations with everybody in my life, with my family, with my friends that have, are founders. Like I remember, here's an interesting thing. And another part of my whole process with like trying to make this decision to leave is that And Marigo, who put us in contact, she's someone that I admire deeply. We're around the same age. She has an incredible job. She has 2 children and she's thriving, right? Every day is busy for her and she's involved in complex negotiations. And she's got a lot going on, as well as 2 children at home, right? So, I would leave conversations with people like Marigo and other friends that are building, their own brands and businesses. And I'd be like, damn. And they're around my age. And I'd be like, wow, their lives are just so much more complex than mine. My job is day in and day out the same thing. Read the applications, interview the people, make decisions, move on to the next one. There's nothing complex or challenging about any of that. How did my life become so basic and simple for a woman who is quite complex herself, right? So I leave a lot of these conversations just feeling really behind. And why did I start telling this story? Did you ask me a question?
Mm-mm.
Why did I start telling this
I
story?
think I would guess that you're going towards this new role
Maybe.
and how that requires you.
Maybe. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I would leave. Yes. How did my life become so simple when everyone else's lives around me are so complex? And I would find myself in conversations, got it back. I would find myself in conversations with my friends like Marigo, like my friends that were starting their own businesses. And I would actually not really have much to contribute aside from like making them laugh. What? Like that's never what I imagined for myself. And now that I'm building something, granted, this is not my company, right? We have a CEO and a founder, but we're in the mud. We're in the thick of it. We are building a fashion tech product. So now I have a lot to say to my friends. I have a lot to contribute, and I feel so much better about myself. So on my days when I'm like, why did you do what you did? I have to remember, when I was sitting at Bar Bianchi with my girlfriend who has a CPG business and we were able to talk about building websites and all, I don't even remember. We talked about so many different things. I was like, wow, 2 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to have that conversation with her. 2 months ago, I would have been talking to her about her boyfriend because that's what I know how to do. So that, now that I'm looking at it in that way, is one of the really beautiful things in this ugly moment is that reason I left was for growth. I could have stayed where I was at for forever. And even though some days it doesn't feel like it, I already have tremendous growth. And I've even had conversations with my mom about this business that we're building. And she's like, wow, I've actually never even heard you speak like so. Not, it's gonna sound mean. Like, I've never seen you speak so intelligently about business, like about the back end of a business. Because, Casa Cipriani is hundreds of $1 million business, right? Like I'm not getting involved in that. Just little old me. Like we're not, I was involved in the day-to-day, the membership operation, which is a big thing. But like, didn't really know the ins and outs of the business. Whereas I know the ins and outs of this business. And my parents are both entrepreneurs. So we can have great conversation, now about these things. So I am getting that growth, even though it's not this thing where I thought I'd be selling hundreds of memberships by this point, 4 months in. That's coming. Don't you worry, everybody. I'm going to try to sell you a membership soon. But, I am getting this other piece of radical growth, whereas I feel like I'm finally stacking up to my peers and I am part of important conversations and I do have a seat at the table and I do have autonomy. And this community is going to be built off of the skin of my own back, my relationships, my people, once I run out of my people, my outreach, my crafty LinkedIn building, my networking. It all seems scary to a woman that had to do zero outreach for 6 years. But it's a challenge that I'm really excited to take. And I'm also like forced myself as well to join a lot of these like women's groups because I know even though like right now we haven't gone to market and I still haven't even reached out to my 5,000 contacts and things like that, like I know there's going to be a point in time where like I've run out of people, right? And I'm already thinking about that. So I'm already, joining some women's groups, thinking about how I can get to my next, 5,000 people after I've run out of my 5,000 people. And I'm just having a lot of great conversations with women in business, women that, do, what is it called? It's like coaching for women that are, what I think is a really amazing thing is that there are a lot of these like coaches that are coaching women that are in these in-between phases. There's even a whole private members group called Bond that really caters to women that are in the in-between, kind of like me. And then there's also this whole other subset of these women that are kind of like, in their late 40s, early 50s that are recalibrating, like what it means to be. I talked about being the oldest person in the room, but really what it means, like being the oldest person in the room. And, how do I get involved with those groups of women? Because those are really the women that need wardrobe curation, right? Which is kind of like the basis of the platform that I'm building. So, um, yeah, all that to be said is that I am really strengthening my relationship and my bonds with women, existing relationships and new relationships, which have been great.
Hello, Wisdom Stripes listeners. It's your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godmother, Meg Tuohey here. I want to pause just for a moment. Have you ever felt like you're functioning well, but not actually feeling much? Have you ever wondered when you stopped checking in with yourself? Or how you became so good at showing up for everyone else, but slowly disappeared in the process? That quiet disconnection is something I see in so many capable women. And it's exactly why I wrote HeartPrint. Not to give you another system, not to hand you another checklist, but to help you rebuild trust with your own inner wisdom. Because clarity doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from remembering who you are underneath the noise. If you've been waiting for permission to come home to yourself, this is it. You can get your copy at yourheartprint.com. Make sure you tag me on Instagram once you've received your copy. Now, let's get back to the episode. There's a word that just keeps coming through as I listen to you, and it is about potential. And my intro to you was about your outside matching your inside. And I really understand that what you're tapping into and being led towards is the congruence with your full potential, the full use of that beautiful, complicated, smart brain of yours in the application of life. And you could tell through those data points of your friends and your own heart truths that there was this gap. And so you trusted that data and you made the leap and you found the next right thing. And of course it was dark. Of course it was tricky because you had to be the person who grew into the version of you that could be congruent.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the darkness. It's all right because out comes the sun again.
Yes.
The sun always rises.
For sure. For sure. Except for today. It's quite...
It's still here though.
But we're still here.
And it's still here. The sun is still here.
The sun is still here, for sure.
All right. Now, I do have a question for you, and it is for those of us who don't understand what a membership club is. So it does sound like it's a paid membership. There's a wait list. You have to fulfill criteria to get on. You get then interviewed and perhaps selected, and then you have access.
Yep.
So I figured that out.
Yeah.
But what does it mean?
Yeah, well, it depends, right? I mean, there's so many different types of private members clubs. There's actually, and now too, there's also services that have memberships that are tied on to them. So, in terms of a private members club that's an actual establishment, what it really gives you access to is whatever their facilities are and whatever type of programming that they're a part of. Or, some of them even have charitable organizations that they're a part of. So you get to become a part of that. You really become a part of the culture of whatever this brand is building. But yeah, that's really it. That's what you're getting access to. It's not, you're not getting access even to their community. If they are hosting a lot of events and they have great response to those events, then yeah, sure, maybe you are being exposed to the community. But a lot of these social clubs really are built upon coming and using them with your family and your friends. So, I think they're wonderful. I think that they're great. I think that, obviously in New York City, they are really booming and thriving. And I think that there's going to be even more to come. I think that there's even going to be the private members club for the people that don't really care to be a part of the social society of New York City. I think that people are really just craving third space, especially after COVID, and people all want to be a part of something. So I think that private members clubs really do have their purpose. And now, which is kind of like what I've gotten into, which is a membership-based service, which, it's a tale as old as time. We've always had subscription-based businesses, but now they're really becoming very prevalent, even down to like, a lot of the like facialists are doing memberships. And I'm building a community of people for wardrobe curation, fashion discovery. So essentially a membership to shop, to have access to a coveted assortment of designers and great access to vintage and styling and all of these things. So there's also that whole portion of it, whereas like you pay to have access to some level of curation, which is also a wonderful thing because now it doesn't matter what we're talking about. The opportunities and options are endless. You want to look for a white t-shirt, it's going to take you 20 to 30 minutes to find the best one. You're going to go to Vogue. You're going to see which ones the editors are suggesting. Then you're going to try to figure out which one is the cheapest one, the best one for the quality. Like, there's just so much out there. So to be able to have a place to go to like find all the good stuff and not have to do all the research and spend all that time is a nice thing to have. And it's happening everywhere. It's even like, if you think of like a Violet Grey, for example, not that that's a membership, but that is really curation at its finest when it comes to clean beauty products. It's like they have the best of the best. They have their Violet code and they only put those products in, the ones that are going to be, the best for you, that have great results. And it allows us to have a place to go to find all the best things without having to do all the research. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these memberships to services for curation on products coming up. Like, I think that that's going to be, I'm always on the forefront of things. I joined Casa Cipriani. It was like the first private members club. Now there's a million of them. Like, I think that now I'm like part of this other service related membership thing. Like, I kind of have like an idea of like what's going to come up and what's going to become hot. It's not because I'm like, I don't telepathy or anything like that, but I think that my heart just kind of jumps to do these things that like also are kind of like, that sounds like probably not the best idea. Maybe you should do it, right? But I do think that we're going to see a lot more of them because people are just they're overtired. They're tired of the overstimulation of having to make choices, make decisions, try to find the best thing. Oh, did I buy the best thing? Oh, then you find out that there's another best thing. So a very long-winded way to answer your question.
Really good though, but you left a little loop open.
Yeah.
For someone who's wearing a white t-shirt,
Ooh.
someone who knows what the best white t-shirt is, please tell.
Okay, so a few things, right? You could spend $300 on a t-shirt or you could spend $20 on a t-shirt. There's the right one for everybody. 3. I'm going to give you 3.
We'll take 3.
If you want to spend a lot of money on a t-shirt, go to Kate, buy yourself a t-shirt. It's awesome. It's just perfectly boxy. It fits amazing. This is actually from Everlane, probably $30 or $40. It's great. I also just learned a hack, by the way, about t-shirts, and this one happens to be one you could do the hack with. So this is from Everlane. It has no tag in the back. You know how everybody loves to do now, like the sweater with the t-shirt underneath it with like just the perfect amount of white peeking. But if you wear it like front ways, it kind of starts to droop, right? So you put the back of the t-shirt into the front, and then it's up higher, so you get the perfect amount of white showing underneath your sweater. So I just learned that hack yesterday. And then recent discovery, and I'm going to tell you the name of the brand because these are the best t-shirts I've ever gotten, and the reason I'll tell you why I'm not wearing it today. Okay, the brand is called Nation, and hold on, I'm going to tell you because this is really the best t-shirt. So
we are listening.
Yeah,
we are all ears.
It is the Fable turtleneck by Nation Los Angeles. I'm not wearing it today because I had to order a new one because this moment that I put it on, I got makeup all over it and I destroyed it. But it is a turtleneck, perfectly like A-line. You tuck it in. It's a little bit slouchy. Same with the sleeves. I got it in white and black. It is probably the best t-shirt that I've ever owned. The fabric is like buttery smooth. The way that it like slouches over it's perfect. I think it's in the $100 range. Whatever it is, buy the freaking shirt. It's the best. When I tell you, I put it on and I got the makeup on it, I cried hysterical, and I immediately ordered it again, even though it was a $100 t-shirt. And then I ordered it in black too. So it ended up being like, $100 mistake, so $300. But you know what? This is what we work for. This is what we work for. And when you find a good t-shirt,
you're going to get 2.
You get multiple or 3. Yeah, I love a t-shirt.
See, I knew you knew.
Yeah.
You did that. I was like, well, don't leave us hanging, friend.
Oh, yeah. No, I've got if you ever have a question about fashion, facials, hair, you just come to your girl. Skin products, I know it all.
Yes. All right. Well, you heard it here first.
Yeah. Botox?
Now, that does bring us to the last question, which is, what piece of wisdom would you like to leave our listeners with today?
I think that I'm going to stick with what I started with, is to really just try to find the beauty in your ugly times. And there's going to be a point in your journey when that ugly time becomes a beautiful time. And you're going to look back on it and be like, wow, remember when I was really struggling and things were really dark? So just do your best that even in those moments when you're doubting everything, when things are dark, there's beauty in that. And you're going to see it. It might take you having a conversation similar to this one that we're having today with a girlfriend. You don't have to have lights, camera, action to have these moments, to like have these tiny epiphanies where, wow, yeah, you know what? Actually, there is growth. I am getting better. This is a beautiful moment in time. So yeah, I'm gonna leave your listeners with exactly that.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're so lucky to have met you and to know the perfect white and black t-shirt.
Well, it's truly my pleasure to be here, and it's been therapeutic for me, honestly.
I'm so glad. Paula Sanders reminds us that identity isn't something you find, it's something you tune into and then you build again and again and again with more honesty each time. Her story is proof that the in-between can be the most transformative place of all. Thank you, Paula, for sharing your heart, your story, and your courage with us today. To connect with Paula and explore her world, follow her on Instagram at PS It's Me. Listen to The World's Your Oyster podcast and read her essays on Substack at Love You, Love Me. And to stay connected with me, follow at Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. I'm Meg Tuohey, and I hope you gained a little wisdom today. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on at Meg Tuohey Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.